Welcome y'all, Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thanks for joining us. As we all know, many of us food plotters have realized in 2023, our food plots have been more scarcely used and the whitetails have been staying in the woods. And the reason that is because Mr. White Oak decided to dump the biggest dang crop of white oaks that ever has been in history. So we want to kind of get an update on what's going on with these white oak acorns. They should have been done a long time ago, but the above average crop continued falling through November. Here we are at the very end of November, start of December, and I wanted to come out because I've started noticing our plots are beginning to get more action again. Whitetails largely in this part of the world have stayed in the woods all of October and for the most part all of November. Like I said, the last few hunters, rifle hunters, we were definitely started to see an uptick in the amount of whitetails beginning to come use the plots, the standing corn, the brassicas, things like that, the cereal rye. But I wanted to get out in the woods today and look around and see how much longer, what's the current status of these white oak acorns in the woods, and how much longer these whitetails are going to be feeding on them, or are they about to switch food sources. As I take a look around, you don't see any acorns on the ground right now. All of the leaves are pretty much off of all of these trees. So they're all pretty much covered except for what whitetails and turkeys are scratching out. So as we get down, we don't really see any white oak acorns on the ground. We know there's a tremendous amount of them earlier. So we'll just take our hand, we'll simply rake back some of these leaves to expose the forest floor. Try not to move anything, mess anything up. Get a little bit of an area here where we can kind of see everything. Here's you a great example right here. What's going on with your white oaks? They're germing. See there? Already a root coming off of that white oak. You got a big pile of white oaks that are beginning to germ. Some of them haven't yet. An awful lot of them have. There's another one right there that has. Go to another spot. Oh, there's one right there I can already see. See there? It's already got a sprout on it. And obviously that one is just now beginning to open up. You can see the green inside there. So it's just like any other seed. It's going to take moisture in, it's going to swell, and it's going to germ. It's going to start growing. So if you followed my acorn video back earlier, you know that white oaks will drop and they will sprout all in this first year, where red oaks have that tannic acid in them, so they need a cold period before they can germ up, where white oaks do not need that. They hit the ground and they take off, and that's because the tannic acid almost acts as a preservative in the red oak, and so it doesn't let it germ this fall like the white oaks do. So with the white oaks, all pretty much that I have found, they're either rotted or sprouted at this point. Mother Nature did throw and grow, right? So you hear a lot of folks talking about throw and grow. Mother Nature's been doing throw and go for thousands and thousands of years. She puts the seeds down, the leaves fall on top, it gets wet, it keeps it moist, it has seed to soil contact and that acorn to the ground. It has cover over top to keep that acorn moist while it's getting established into the dirt. And all of a sudden you have an oak tree sprouts, okay? So this would be a great spring to come in and thin down some of your trees that might not be as desirable. And I've got a lot to do in these woods here. Down in this holler, it's all mainly white oak, and it's scattered a little bit of red oak, a little bit of cherry, but for the most part, this holler here is pretty good. The holler to our north here has a lot of undesirable trees in it. It does have some scattered oak, white oak and red oak, but this would be a good year to go in there and thin that stand down, because you are going to have a surplus of young oak trees coming this spring. As you can tell, we had an above average acorn crop, but it looks like we are on the tail end of it. I suspect deer are beginning to switch to the red oaks now. They've been on the ground for 2 or 3 months. I'm sure they've lost some of their tannic acid at this point, and the whitetails will start readily consuming them once the white oaks are pretty much played out. Now, there's still tons of white oaks on the ground, but what I'm finding is they're either rotted or sprouted. There's very few that are fresh acorns on all these leaves. We've had enough rain that it's sealed the moisture there, and then all these have started to sprout. So what I would look for in the coming next 2 to 3 weeks, I would look for more red oak trees, and I would look for deer to be moving back towards our food plots. The food plots that didn't play as big a role as what we had hoped earlier in the season, but now I think our whitetails are going to be hitting them harder and harder, and that's what we started to see on the outfit. You know, the first couple weeks of season, there was very minimal deer movement other than in the woods. Very little out in the open field, and now all of a sudden, the last 2 or 3 days, we started seeing more and more and more deer come out of places that we were hunting and might only see a deer or two. Well, now all of a sudden we're seeing 20, 25. So the deer have definitely got the note that the white oaks are pretty much done, and they're moving back onto our food plots, into our kill holes, into our agricultural fields, and that should make this last part of the season a good time for us to key in on a mature whitetail. I like this part of the season anyway. This later season, once the rut is over, you can key in on target bucks a lot easier. In my opinion, in this December period is when your food plots are most consistently solid, because when a buck gets through rutting, he is fixing to go to the food plots. No question about it. You have a high quality food plot for that whitetail, he runs himself down all of November, and then he's going to spend December, January building up those reserves that he lost during that rut. So it's a really good time to get in the woods, hunt your standing corn, your brassicas, standing beans, things like that are really, really good this time of the year. And typically they're better than what they are in November, but this year with the white oak crop, it was pretty null and void this year. But I look for that to change here in the next 2 or 3 weeks as they transition back to food plots. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Smash that like and subscribe button.